It is me, Ludwig. I suppose your host and co-host. I don't know. Co-host?
It's okay if you want to do this alone, dog.
You're gonna kick us out.
But yeah, man, it's Ludwig and just chatting with the gents, school fees, and yeah, that's what we're doing.
Oh, it's my turn now. Hi, look at the camera. Hi, I am Tulani, co-host of the School Fees podcast. And you?
Oh, I thought you were going to introduce me there. That's okay. Everyone, my name is Daryl. I'm also part of the co-hosts of the School Fees podcast. And yeah, we just want to welcome everyone to the show. We're really excited. We're going to have a great time today. And yeah, I hope you all really enjoy it. And without further ado, I'd like to introduce our guest, or he can introduce himself.
Okay,
Tell us who you are.
The man on the moment.
I'm Steve. Hello.
Can you please go with full name?
Can we go full? Oh.
Yeah!
ID. ID number, blood type, the sample, what is the registration? No. My name is Steve Pinto. I am the CEO of New Reality and of Control Robotics. And yeah, some other stuff. I suppose we'll find out more in the podcast, yeah.
Actually, I was thinking about this. So number one, we need to thank you
Okay.
for the opportunity that you've given us to even record.
Oh, yes, you're welcome.
Yeah, we need to tell that he owns all this shit. So all of this is all him, and thank you very much for actually giving us that opportunity.
You're welcome.
To live out our dreams. And
This is Zapcast Studios. It's a project between myself, Kagiso Rabada, and Cameron Scott. We wanted to make a platform where people could just make content and tell what they wanted to say. You know, just give them a platform to do so. So the studio is open. You know, if anyone wants to come and record it and use it. We're obviously producing our own shows at Zapcast in the future, but you know the biggest barrier for people to try something is the access, right? You don't have it. So you may have had the dreams to be somebody making a show or to do something cool, or you have a story to tell, and you don't have all the gear is your first barrier, right? So we don't want that. We want people to be able to make content and just make local content. That's why it's ZA podcast, right? It's South African podcasts.
I didn't actually think about
oh shit! It just clicked.
Yeah, it did now. It's an Easter egg. It's an Easter egg.
Nigga, Zaps stood for.
To be honest with you, I just thought it was quirky. Like I just thought it was like.
legit did not think about that.
Yeah.
So first and foremost, so give us like actually even the viewer like
Okay.
a brief history. You don't have to tell us about your childhood, but
Okay.
like from up until let's say your first job, like in terms of what you do.
My first job was my last job. I haven't had a job for 13 years.
Give us
Okay.
a breakdown.
So so I grew up in a small town like an hour from here in Woodbank. Daryl's obviously knows exactly.
We're trying to be worldwide. So Woodbank is a province in South Africa.
Oh, okay.
No, sorry, it's in Mpumalanga.
It's in Mpumalanga, yeah.
Yes.
It's a coal mining town. So when you talk about commodities, like you can't school me, bro. Like I've lived in a town that lives on commodities,
Yeah.
right? Like
Acid rain and.
yeah, no, it's the second most polluted city in the world, next to Mexico City, right? Just
Why
because
is
Mexico City is the most polluted city in the world.
Why?
No, it's just like they don't have like policies around CO2 and also about proximity. Like so, Woodbank isn't necessarily a bad place because of the mines. It's a bad place because it's in a mines in a valley, so the air never circulates. It's just a bad place to put a town, and subsequently everyone there is in a polluted state because.
Wasn't the town a result of people having to live there to mine?
Well, the area has a lot of mines, and then someone started a settlement there, and then because they didn't know that they're really in a valley and that like all this pollution is going to sit, they just kept moving, they just kept building. So now it's a terrible place because, there's no foresight, there was no education, there was no knowledge at that time when they made these decisions. Like, if you really wanted to do it, you would have moved the city like, a couple of kilometers further up higher, and then you wouldn't have had so much pollution. But anyway, so I grew up in there. My father was a contractor, like a construction contractor, for many years. He started a hardware store, and that was kind of like our family business, and we ran that for probably like 8 years. My father always made it a point to work like a dog, like work himself to death, and every year he wanted to spend his money on a trip overseas. So that kind of bit me in the bug. Currently, right now, I've traveled to 36 countries
Sure.
in my life, and I think it's because my father had told me, like, you work hard and you get out of the shithole place and you go see somewhere in the world that will inspire you to do something better, right? Like, just because we're here and just because it's not the greatest place to live and just because we work really, really hard doesn't mean that we don't deserve to reward ourselves and to expand our minds. So
I'm sure he was motivated by living in Witbank.
well, he came from Madeira on a boat. It took him a month to get here, right? So he knew a little bit about Europe, and being immigrants, you have a very strong work ethic because you never feel safe in your own country, right?
Yeah.
When you rock up, and especially like then, apartheid is a very fucked up thing, right? It was a very fucked up situation, but it also affected immigrants because immigrants weren't white. They weren't white Afrikaans people. So some old man was a contractor. My mom worked for him. My mom had a job. I think her last job was like fucking 35 years ago. She worked in an insurance company. And then we went to this town because this town was booming, right? It was growing at the time, and it was, at one point, Woodbank had more millionaires than Sandton did.
Makes sense.
Yeah, it was like the Wild Wild West. It was booming at the time. So it boomed when Eskom was doing well because Eskom was spending the money on the power stations, everything around the area. In the last 15 years, Woodbank's turned into an absolute shithole because Eskom's turned into a shithole. So subsequently that happened. In that time when I was a kid, I obviously worked at our family store and I learned a lot about business, about retail, how to deal with people. I learned lots. It was fundamentals of my entrepreneurship. And I did really, really well. Like I was like 16 years old and I was thumping. Like I was making more money than my teacher was at school. Just because I was hustling and I was getting commissions and I was working every day after school. I went to work. Every weekend I went to work. It was the thing that bit me.
Yeah. This reminds me of Gary Vee.
Oh yeah.
Kind of like the story.
Yeah, man. You gotta. It's a bug you catch, and then you just keep moving forward, right? Like to be an entrepreneur, it doesn't mean you wake up one day. It's like, oh, I want to. No, what you want is you want to have power. You want to be in control. You want to have a legacy. You want to have financial wealth. You want those things, but you don't want to be an entrepreneur. No, you just want those things. You want the byproducts of it.
Yeah.
To be an entrepreneur means you want to be a hustler. You want to hustle all day, every day. It's the thing that keeps you up at night. It's the thing that gets you up in the morning. It's all encompassing, right? The byproduct of that is success, money, and fame, and all that other crap. But the hunt, the desire, is what makes you an entrepreneur, and that's what V has. Like Gary Vee has that in spades.
And grit.
And grit, like proper grit, because he's failed. He's failed dismally. Like I've failed so much in my life that. Like when something comes up to me and people panic, I'm just like, fuck that, man. Like I've seen worse in my life. I'm prepared.
We'll get them now.
Okay. So when I was 17 or 18, I was in matric. I wanted to kind of take a step back from the store. I didn't want to sell hardware to people and contractors. I wanted to try something more sexy and ambitious. I got a job at a CD store. I was a manager, like a nighttime manager of a CD
Still
store.
in Brisbane.
Yeah. It was Look and Listen. You remember those things?
Yeah.
Didn't Musica like close down?
Yeah, music
Music
recently
closed down as well.
just closed down.
So
Wait,
this
guys,
is a
well done.
Yeah.
So
For our-
music,
For
yeah.
our young listeners, look and listen. So we used to buy CDs and PlayStation
And
games
DVDs
and
and-
DVDs.
Yeah.
See, some of you may not even know what DVDs are.
There's someone
Blu-ray.
who's probably of mind right now who's never seen what a DVD is.
Yeah.
Like him and I were at Macro and he wanted the entire what you call this?
Box it.
Yeah, not a DVD.
Surround sound.
Surround sound. And I'm like, why, dude? Why would you wanna like it's
Well, speakers are important. I can kind of see that. But like when you buy one that has a DVD player, you just got ripped off. And different on a different topic. A Blu-ray though is a very, very high quality piece of content. Like what you see on Netflix is compressed to shit. What you see on a Blu-ray is super like
Do
crispy.
they still sell those?
Yeah, dude, they do. But they make them like limited and special editions now. Because like you can watch the movie on Netflix, but you can watch the director's cut in 4K on a Blu-ray.
Yeah.
So that's why you have it. And why they
Could you
exist.
download it though?
You can.
in Blu-ray.
You can, but they're on torrents. They're not like legitimate. There's no legitimate streaming service for 4K.
So they still want you to buy the
The
CD.
actual-
Yeah.
Because I was thinking.
Well, you know how many gigs is on a Blu-ray?
Yeah,
80.
Yeah, I was about to say, isn't like the reason that you
Like
like
60. Sorry, 60.
so Netflix inability to give us Blu-ray isn't because they can't.
Just because your TV can't run it.
Yeah, and the bandwidth to run it
It's too
would be
high.
too expensive for you.
Yeah, but 5G will fix that, right? So 5G will give you the ability to do so. But anyway, onto the other thing. So the store is where I kind of cut my teeth as my first out of family job.
In other words, he paid school fees.
Yeah. And I got in a lot of shit because sometimes I just wouldn't go to school because school was crap. So I would go to work instead and make money.
Yeah.
And my teachers found out and gave me some shit. Threatened me.
Did your old man beat you?
No. So at the time, my father had already passed. So I was like 17, 18. I didn't give a fuck about anyone. Like, I went to a school that was run by nuns, dude. I had a great time pissing them off. It was the best joy of my life to, like, annoy them because they were German nuns. So they were like...
Yeah.
And I was like, no, this is bullshit. Like, you are fabricating a mentality that I must now work for someone and I must get a job and I must become fuck you and fuck your oppressive nature, right? Even the idea of school, like where we stand in a line in a rows, it's to prepare you to be a number in a company, and like it doesn't foster you being anything outside of that. And this little town, this little mentality, you know, it's like, oh, go work on the mines, go work for this company, work for that place. When you're done with school, you should come work for me. Fuck you, bro. You can come work for me. That's how I felt about it.
Okay.
So I wanted to take this opportunity to like, okay, let me see what a job is like when I'm not, you know, it's not a family business. It wasn't.
This is in your matriculant here.
Yeah. So I went and I got this night job at the CD store because I was fascinated by music, and I mean, you guys can see like.
Tech and audio.
Myself and actually Daryl's cousin were in a band together at that time.
JSG.
Yeah, that's it. we were just you know, Woods Woodbank. What do you do? Like this is a small town with nothing. Like you go to the movies. That's all you can do. You go to the movies, right? So we found ways to keep ourselves entertained. We started a band. We started to play. I got into music. You know, look where we are right now. It's all because of that, right? All this idea and love of content and media and cinematography, it all comes from that place.
Sure.
So I took the time off because I just wanted to be more, you know, connected to content, and I was sick and tired of selling paint and screws and hammers and shit like that. So I took the year off and I did that, and yeah, that was my first and last job.
Best decision, worst decision?
It was really, really good. I learned a lot about people. I learned a lot about the environment. I learned like a different kind of way of thinking and selling, and you know, like now you're trying to tell people what's going to make them laugh, what's going to make them sad, what's going to make them feel, you know, suspense. Whereas, you know, for the last 8 years, I had just told people how to hit a hammer against a nail. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's very different kinds of people, and I learned so much more about dealing with people in a whole different space.
And then what do you do after?
So then graduated. I went to Tux for a couple of months, and then I realized that like the idea of school was not for me.
Tux is University of Pretoria.
Sorry.
I realized that when I tell people I went to Tux,
Yeah.
What the hell?
it's like, yeah, they're like, what the hell is that? Because in my head, I'm like,
It's when people say I went to uni. What?
Somebody.
Yeah.
You can see yourself.
Well, no, I mean like uni is for university, but like why don't you just call it university? It doesn't need to be shortened.
Yeah.
So I went for a couple of months and I studied business, and I took a course in philosophy and Spanish. And I was like, all right, cool, I'm gonna go learn all this stuff. But I realized that I didn't enjoy the structure. I realize now later in my life that I probably would have thrived better if I stayed in university in a way, but I should have gone to study engineering and not business. Like business I had already known. Business I had an experience with. People.
So it felt boring.
It felt boring. There was a lot of gaps that got filled as well. But then I realized like, you know, you could do this at your own pace, at your own time. Like I had met so many people who had not gone to business school who were good businessmen.
So then why engineering? Why do you think?
I think because you learn first principles and you learn how to think as an engineer. The richest man in the world right now is an engineer because of the way he thinks, not because of the knowledge that he has, right? And engineering doesn't teach you anything besides how to think and how to apply.
Problem solving.
Exactly.
Systematic problem solving.
I have an engineering mindset because of the kinds of businesses that I've done in the last decade and the projects that I've put myself through and the things that I've wanted to do. And I realized that I should have been an engineer. My math teacher told me not to be an engineer because I was too stupid in high school. And I listened to her. And that's why I never pursued
It's never
this
too
field.
late, Steve.
I'm an engineer now, bro. I hire engineers. I have a fucking robotics company. My math teacher in high school can kiss it. Like, all of them were like, you're going to be a failure, you're going to sell hardware for the rest of your life. Fuck all of you, all right? Like, fuck all of you. Like, I am who I am because I was rather taking your misguided approach to try and impose your idea on me, and I learned that there was more to life. When I was 18, I'd already been to, like, 6 countries, right?
Sure.
So I had seen there was a different world, there's a different place, there's different everything. your stupid small town mentality and trying to impose it on me is not helping anyone. Like, if I can tell you one thing that I can say to you about Elon, is that Elon is proof that if you ever want to succeed in your life, you need to leave Pretoria. Right?
So I'm trying to get out.
But I'm saying, like, the world is this massive place with billions of people and opportunities all over. Why would we be in this place where we conform ourselves into a small mentality? So I was like, fuck this, I'm not doing this. I'm not getting another job, I'm just going to start hustling. I went 6 months...
What year is this?
So
2008.
cool.
Yeah.
Pretoria, 6 months.
6 months. I lived in Pretoria for a couple of years, but I went to Tux for 6 months and I was like, I don't like this.
Sure.
So I just started to hustle and I started to figure out things to do and I just started to make plans and I started to learn and I started to travel and whatever I could do.
So like when I'm listening to something, when someone says started to hustle, because like I could be like literally, because I envisioned myself in my first year, if I realistically look at like my life and in my mind, maybe I was a bit closed off. What I could have done in terms of hustle seems a little limited. So when you say hustle, like what were you actively doing and how were you doing it? Because I think the term hustle gives the kid in grade 10 who's struggling with what they want to do with their life, right? Because when they, like Gary Vee, he always tries and tells us that like hustle, there was something actively that I was doing in that space. So when you say hustle, like what actively were you going on?
Hustle for me is the term of exerting energy for value.
No,
right?
no, specifically what you're doing at the time.
No, but I'm 100%. So that was my foundation. I was like, all right, I need to make money, right? Sure. I don't need to make a lot of money. I just need to survive and I need to learn, right? So in actual fact, the last 13 years of my life has been school fees, right? I've paid my own type of school fees. Instead of me giving my money to some dumbass at a college and saying, okay, cool, I'm going to give you a textbook and teach you. And I'm not saying every professor is a dumbass. I've met very, very, very smart professors. But, like, I could have gone and said, cool, I'm going to go to varsity college or I'm going to go to this place and they'll just give me textbooks and they'll teach me and then I'm going to spend 300 grand on that. Instead, I spent 300 grand on businesses, right? I went and I hustled in all different kinds of ways. So I went back to Witbank and I started to look at all the people that I had known because I've met lots of people in the store. Everyone needs to fix their house. So I started to look at, all right, what are you doing? What you're up to? What are you looking for? Are you trying to sell this? You're trying to buy that? Do you need some of this stuff for your project? Cool. I brought in a container of granite and I borrowed the money from my mom to do it and made some profit and went on that. Sold granite to a contractor. We didn't sell granite at the hardware store, so what did it matter? Yeah. He needed granite for his kitchen and I got him some granite. We did other projects as well where we just like sourced material from different places and sold them on with a bit of a profit and you kept going. Eventually I went and I bought billboards in Witbank and I started to sell them to people that I had known, like I rented them out.
Like I mean billboards, I mean like
those big ones on the side of the road, yeah. So I bought a big one in the taxi rank, I bought a big one on one of the main roads and I just rented them out and I leased them to people that I knew and I started to build some income. And then when I started to get a sustainable amount of income that I could support myself and so on, I progressed forward. So, your objective is to say, okay, I've got X money, I've got 5 grand. What can I do with 5 grand? I can buy stuff and flip it. Okay, who would I flip it to? Who do I know? Who do I trust? Who would probably buy from me? So you look at your friends, be like, hey, what are my friends like? My friends like shoes. Cool, let me go flip shoes. Let me go make a plan, go get some shoes, send them some pictures. Do you guys want it? Sweet, I'll bring it to you. Happy days. I'll drive. The cost of me bringing it to you is my hustle, right? And I just kept doing that and then, eventually found my way into other kinds of businesses where I wanted to learn. I had an imports company and I was importing noodles that I had made in China, right? I had a trucking business that I had, through the networks, met some people, we'd raised some funds together, bought a couple of vehicles and grew the business. When I started to get deeper into tech, because now I had more time on my hands and more income was coming in. So
before I can answer something.
Yeah.
When you decided to drop out, what were your friends doing?
They were studying.
Yeah, so the reason I asked that, did that affect you in any way?
Yes.
In terms of feeling like a failure?
No.
And the world is, yeah.
No, my friends would never look at me as a failure. My friends always looked at me as someone, I assume that how they looked at me was okay, it's someone who has their own vision and their own path, right? I was a stubborn asshole. I'm still a stubborn asshole. When my mom was panicking because I dropped out of school, I didn't care. I was like, I'm sorry that you feel that way. Cool. And I just went on with my life. Not many people have that luxury or that ability or that sort of personality to do so, right? So you can't go against your parents when you wanted to do so. Like, I saw that my friends still went and studied and they finished and they accomplished what they wanted to do, and I supported that 100% because they wanted to be that kind of person, and that was the path to get there.
Financially, do you guys progress in the same way?
No,
You're 32 this year, so it's
yeah,
like
I had made a lot of money by the time I was like 26, right? Because I had hustled so hard and I had gotten deep into the game, and I didn't spend so much money on school fees, like for university. I'd rather spend the money on learning, on the workplace, in the real workplace. And I had met some cool people, and I ventured out into new industries and new spaces, and I had amassed like a little bit of wealth.
Were you ever scared, like venturing into
every day? Every day I'm scared.
How do you get over that?
You learn how to. Like, nobody can tell you. I can't tell you do this, that, and that, and you won't be scared anymore. No, you have to overcome your fear how you do it, right? So I was shit scared. And I was a very big introvert as well in the early parts of my life. But then I realized like introverts are not going to make a sale. So I had to figure my way out of it.
Or is it one of those where you have to learn to be an extrovert? Or
yeah, you have to find the thing that is going to propel you. So I've got a 3-second rule. If I want to talk to somebody, I have 3 seconds to do so. Because on second 4, you're going to back out from doing it.
Can I be honest with you?
Yeah.
Whenever I use that with girls, I got rejection.
Yeah.
I was like, hi, my name is
For a second.
Yeah. Well, you know why? You know why you got rejected, because you did something that was standard, like that was not unique. When you go out to a club or a bar, or even when you're out trying to make a sale, right? That person has some sort of preconceived idea of what their night's going to be like, and as soon as you fulfill that same thing, they're just bored by it. As soon as you add some excitement to it, you stand out. That 3-second rule is for you to start a conversation. It's not for you to win. You're not just going to win because you got 3 seconds in. You have to be unique, right? So if you go and you open with, "Hi, my name is Tulani."
Okay.
Now what?
Whole story.
Yeah. Like if you want to pick up a girl, you only tell her name. Ask her her name or give her your name. 2 minutes in. Anytime before that, why the fuck should she care who you are? You haven't even decided if you wanted to keep speaking to her. You will have an idea because she's maybe attractive, but she could open her mouth and sound like a man and you'd hate it. Why have you introduced yourself?
Depends on the levels of attraction.
No, of course. Of course.
Like these stories, yeah.
But what I'm trying to say is that, like, you can't just go up to a person and tell them your name and expect to get a response, right? You need to see, like, there's lots of different things that will be triggers that will get someone excited. Like, even when you make a sale, right? You're making a sale on a car. You don't walk up and say, "Hi, my name's Tulani, I'm the salesperson. What can I help you with?" Fuck you. No, I don't want anything from you. Leave me alone. You're a salesperson. You walk up to me and you're like, "Dude, you in this car, it would look too fresh."
So Tulani, you walk up to her and say, "You and me?" I'm joking.
You must remember something about like life. Everyone goes out to have some sort of idea of what's going on. When girls dress up to go out to a bar, they want to have a good time, right? A good time doesn't mean I have to meet a man. Good time doesn't mean I have to get shit-faced. They just want to have a good time, right? They want to have an adventure. If you're there not giving an adventure, they're not going to give you their time.
I have a question, Steve. So obviously we're using the example of going to a bar and speaking to girls, but I think this can kind of work.
The whole idea was an allegory.
As well with sales, for example. Alright, so we get the 3-second rule. I want to ask more around those 2 minutes and how you would maybe transition from, okay, you've just introduced yourself or you've just met this person, maybe not give them your name, but how do you build, could I say,
rapport.
Trust and rapport in those 2 minutes? Would you say, is it about understanding your customer or the person you're speaking to, or is it about you equipping yourself so much that you can kind of, as you're communicating with them, you can pull from files in the back of it, maybe you know about this topic, maybe you've worked to become witty or whatever.
The first thing you must remember is that it's not an interview. Just because you started to say something doesn't mean you must now turn it into an interview, right? She's going to interview you, 100%. She's going to ask you questions and you're going to ask questions and you're going to try and find middle ground. It's inherently...
Sometimes they don't ask, you just talk by yourself.
but then stop. It's all about quality, not quantity. If you're sitting there, just because you got to speak to her for 30 minutes, didn't mean that you had a quality experience, right? So you need to say to yourself, all right, you have to have situational awareness, right? You have to understand the situation. So you walk into a bar, everyone's there, there's music playing, people are talking, people are trying to be excited and be alive. What are you going to do? Hi, I'm Tulani. I want to talk to you about your goals and ambitions in life. What? Fuck off. I'm here to have a good time. What you need to lead in with is you need to lead in with something that's exciting. Because you're in an environment where people want to be excited. You need to lead in with a joke. You need to lead in with a fun line. You gotta open up with something that makes you smile. Like, those are the things that doesn't need your name, your ID number, your place you work. None of those things care. The first 3 minutes that you're in a conversation with somebody, they want to even understand if they even care who the fuck you are.
Yeah.
Right? So you have to demonstrate your value without saying, I work at this place, I charge this much an hour, I'm this person, I'm this fucking... No one cares, right? Am I a cool person? Am I a good person? Am I someone who's entertaining and funny? That's what you have to start with. So when you get in your 3-second rule and you know you're in the situation, right? And this person is trying to have a good time, you must be a catalyst for the good time.
Sure.
That's how you're going to get someone to engage with you. And as soon as you're infectious, like you're having so much more fun than I am, and you're walking away, I'm going to stop you. We're like, wait, no, tell me more about you. Tell me. You see what I'm saying?
Okay, sure.
So that mentality of like alpha, you know, the alpha in the situation? The alpha is the person who's having the better time than you are. When you're at a party and someone's having more fun than you are, you want to have fun with them, don't you?
Yeah.
Drawn to them.
That's what you are. That's what happens. Now, in a different situation, when you're a salesperson, let's say you want to sell a car, right? You're in a showroom. The person who's walked in, you know they want to buy a car. You know they're interested in cars. You know that that's what the space is. So are you going to go up to them and say to them, hi, I'm the person who sells cars? No, you're going to be there and you're going to get them to understand where they are, right? They're intrigued by the car. They want to learn more. They want to know more. But they don't care who you are. They care about the car. You must demonstrate that you are the person that they want to talk to so that they can get into the car, right? So you don't walk up and be like, hi, I'm introduce myself. No, it's like you have to go in, you have to have a softer touch. You have to say, man, this car looks great, doesn't it? I mean, what do you think of the color? The color's great, right? Yeah, you know, if you don't like the red, I've got a blue one around the back. You want to go take a look at it quick? Yeah, let's come check it out. All right, come, cool. So what's your name? That's when you start the sale. You see what I'm saying to you? You must have situational awareness. That person is looking at something, they're opening it, they're looking inside, they're picking. You know that they're interested. You need to fill in the blanks and you need to make them feel comfortable.
Yeah.
You don't need to be there and now just demonstrate that you know everything. You work there, of course you fucking know everything, right? What you want them to do is build trust with you. So you have to understand where their mentality is, where their situation is, what they're thinking, and you have to add to it, right? And every time when you've ever met someone who's cool, didn't you feel like you walked away knowing more? Like having a better experience, being happier?
It's an energy thing, eh?
It's energy, exactly that. You come into the wrong energy, you've destroyed everything.
Yeah.
If you have the right energy, infinity is contagious and it's infectious, right? So you want to be closer to that person who's full of that energy. That's that alpha situation, right? But the alpha isn't necessarily the loudest person there or the guy who's telling the funniest jokes. It's the person who's having a better time than you are and you want to have a good time with them too.
Okay, cool. So
Yeah.
then after you've learned the 3-second rule and
Yeah.
overcome your, I guess...
My introvertedness. So
Yeah.
when I was in school, and this is why I think like you must be very careful about where you send your kids to school. Like I met Victor obviously at school, and he's my best friend still. Like for 25 years, he's been my best friend. But there were a lot of people in that school who were bigots, right? Who didn't really understand what was viable. I used to read science books when I was like 13, 12, 11, right about there. I used to like pull out and just be fascinated by science. And people used to ridicule me for doing that instead of going outside and playing. And people didn't have acceptance. People didn't accept you for who you were or what you wanted to be. So then you started to think, well, shit, I should put the book down and go play with people so that I can be socially active. You need a lot of confidence to say, no, fuck that, I want to read my book. I want to be who I am, right, instead. And I started to, up until I left, I was very, very cautious about how people perceive me, right? Because as an introvert and you having a problem with self-esteem and being an only child, you have social skills that are missing.
Yeah.
You don't have them. And now that compounds to how inadequate you feel. So that actually built for many years. The only time when I started to become an extrovert properly was when my father passed. And I had no reason to give a fuck. The world in my eyes was burning. I couldn't care. It was all black and white. Everything was miserable. You go through an emotional traumatic experience, anyone, you don't just be a happy person and the world is this great place. You're upset by it. You're angry by it. So I actually I don't give a fuck. When somebody was rude to me, I was like, fuck you, you piece of shit. But a year before that, I would have just kept quiet and let that nature compound itself into me. And only later in life when I realized cause and effect, like how I behave is how someone behaves to me. How I bring energy in the situation is how someone responds with energy from them. You know, how do we get in frequency with each other? It all happened because I stopped caring about how people perceived me or cared about me. Because when you go home and you're alone, your greatest weapon and your greatest weapon against yourself is your mind. So you're starting to replay all this dumb shit that happened to you in the day, and it compounds and it makes you feel inadequate. You have to get over that so that you can move past that inadequate kind of feeling and mentality.
Do you think most people need to go through that shocking experience?
No, they don't. They need good people around them that can guide them and help them to do so. You see, I had like a good few friends that would accept me for who I am, and I became who I wanted to.
Yeah.
But they weren't necessarily there to help me become an extrovert.
Sure.
They weren't that catalyst for that.
Because the reason I mentioned this is most entrepreneurs tend to have a story where they've failed dismally. Right?
Completely.
To the point where, like they were frowned upon by society, they didn't really think that much about themselves. And then they got, I guess, to the other side where now they just have this supreme level of confidence in themselves, their ability, and then they thrive. It's as if you kind of need that point of inflection.
Yes, you need that. Everyone needs it. Like, no one's born an entrepreneur and just survives and thrives. It doesn't happen. Like, you need to fail because failure is experience. You cannot teach experience. You cannot do it. Experience is earned. You have to fail in life to understand what it feels like to win. You have to fail in life to understand why you failed. We fail every day. I fucking fail twice a day. I just try to make sure that I win 3 times at least, right? Win more than you fail. You only learn that when you start to fail. You have these great expectations in your idea of what this thing that you're making is going to be and how great it's going to affect the world and how it's going to make you a billionaire. It's all a perception of what you think. And when you fail, you realize why you failed and you try again. You can fail 100 times, but if you don't try 101 times, you'll always be a failure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Tense.
So that's what I'm saying is that like you have to be able to have a thick skin. You got to be prepared to be broke. You got to be prepared to be humiliated. You got to be prepared for people to look at you differently. And you still got to be able to get up in the morning and not give a fuck and still push forward. Like if you stop, you have failed.
Yeah.
If you keep trying, you're still just a few steps away from winning.
It's as if you kind of need to be disconnected to what reality or what others perceive to be reality.
Yeah, it's weird, right? We celebrate winners and we idolize them and we put them on pedestals, right? But so few of us win. And we then ourselves be distracted from winning because we don't feel that we have the ability to do so, which we all do, right? We all have the same number of hours in the day. We all have the same numbers of hours that we sleep. It's what we choose to do with our time that defines us. So some people choose to spend their time becoming athletes. Some people choose to spend their time becoming engineers and doctors and entrepreneurs. The problem that we have is that we don't understand the value of our time and how to best apply it in our early stage. And that's why you need a good environment with good people that can mentor and show you that. Like, I think a big reason why I grew up so fast in life is because I spent more time with older people than people of my same age group. When you go to school, you're in a class with 20 people, right?
Yeah.
When you go to work, you see 20 people an hour. And they're all different. And they're all from different age groups, and they all teach you different things, and they all like support you in different ways. You need to have a very broad and wide environment and a quality environment to thrive.
It seems like growing up, you had a lot of, or you developed your EQ quite a bit.
Because I was very close to my father, so I would work with him. We would go to site together. We'd go to places together. We were like very similar people, right? In that sense. So, he himself had a lot of friends, of course, but his son was his closest friend, and vice versa, right?
Sure.
And because of that, you then hang out with older people. You learn other things. You go to places that are completely different to what you would have seen. Dude, when I was 5 years old, I knew how to wire a plug on a wall. Do you know how to wire a plug? Exactly. Right? Nobody does.
Way older than 5 years, but
that's what he was like instilling in me. He was like, look, man, what I can show you is what most people won't. And I want to take you there. I don't want to be like, you son, stay at home, I'm going to work. No, you son, come with me. Let me show you some cool stuff, right? And that mentality is what builds like very high levels of EQ and also experience, because you see other people fail and they tell you why and you learn. You see other projects and how they succeeded and you learn. When you have broad open eyes and you have like no inhibitions and you're not an arrogant person, you can learn anything. You can learn anything from anyone. But the minute you are an arrogant fool with a closed mind, you are a politician. Sorry. Jokes. That one I'm just making a stand about. But we should all have this mentality of an accepting nature, an open mindset, and be a sponge to learn. Do not be afraid to learn, right? Do not be afraid to excel past yourself. My business partner in the robotics company, Nikhil, his maths is like on another level, dude. He is so good at maths. You know why? Because when he was 16, he found that guy who was teaching maths on SABC 3.
Yeah.
And he started learning matric maths then and started compounding his growth. He just had the opportunity and the access and an open mind. He could have flipped back to cartoons, but he flipped onto something that excited him. And he had an open mind to do so. And he didn't care what his friends or anyone else thought about, or his mom coming in like, why are you watching maths? Watch cartoons. You've been in school all day. No. You have your own conviction. You have your own ideals of what you want to achieve and who you want to be in your life. And you absorb everything from all the people around you. I have this thing about religion as well. And that could be our topic for all other day. But how I feel about religions is that I don't feel that any one religion is right. Right? A religion is right for you. You believe in it and you support it, and I support you 100%. I've met people in 36 different countries, right? I've met people of all different backgrounds and all different kinds of ethnicities and all kinds of religions. If I had to go to sleep at night knowing that they were wrong, I wouldn't be able to sleep. You know?
Yeah.
Like everyone believes what they believe.
Yeah.
So
And
if you
content
believe
in
in these gods and this is how you will, transfer your state of being from dead to a new life, I support you. I'm not going to tell you it's wrong. I'm not going to tell you it's right. I'm not going to support it. I'm not going to endorse it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to step back from it, right? And I'm going to let you be who you want to be, and I'm going to support you to do so. Because if you can do that, and if the world has that sort of mentality, no one's going to have a war against each other because of religions. Everyone's allowed to believe whatever they want to believe. I don't stop anyone from doing so. You want to believe there's a spaghetti monster flying in space that's going to pick you up in a spaceship? That's cool, bro. You go do you. Happy days. You go do you. I'm not going to stop you. But what I am not going to do is I'm not going to tell you you're wrong.
Yeah.
And I think that broad mentality has come from years of traveling and seeing all these different kinds of people. Because it's very easy to say, well, I grew up as a Catholic and everyone else is wrong. It's very easy for me to do so. And that's probably what 90% of the people I went to school with who went to that church did think as well. That's the wrong way to approach in life. You need to have a broad, open mindset. You need to be accepting of people. You need to understand who people are. You need to hold yourself to your own values.
Sure.
And you have to be very transparent with yourself. That's how you move forward. That's how you learn and excel and accelerate your growth in life.
So then going back to, now that you've tried a couple of businesses, right? You have
I think 11 in total.
before,
Up to now.
hectic.
Yeah.
Wait, we're still because I want to do this in like an order.
In a chronological order. Okay,
we're
so-
still in.
So I had a
Malanga.
billboard, I had a billboard business. I was living in Pretoria and I was frequenting back and forth and I was kind of leveraging my networks and my resources in the bank. As I started to grow in Pretoria, I started to expand and grow business and then look for people in Joburg. And then I built that trucking and logistics company, right? And then once we had established a customer, base of people we were servicing, we started to look for opportunities for products we could bring in and import, right? Because at the time, if you wanted to make margins, you had to have a diversified portfolio of items, right? You can't be selling the same thing as everyone else because you're in a price war. You need to find a new line, own your own product line, and subsequently supply like that. So I went and I realized that the only thing on the shelves was Maggi 2-minute noodles, and noodles actually had really good margins, and they were low weight, they were easy to transport, they didn't really take up a lot of space, and they were a decent margin. Great. So we went in, I designed my own packaging, because I started to work with agencies and people that were doing billboards and stuff.
Isn't this like drop shipping?
No, drop shipping is when you buy a bundle of stuff and you cut it up to lots of different people, right? So you buy like 1,000 headsets and you try and sell it to 1,000 people. What I did is I bought like 40,000 packets of noodles with my brand on it and then sold it to spas and checkers and so on and so on.
Called?
Is it still around?
No, it's not. It was called...
Here we go.
So my company at the time was called Pronto because we were a distribution company, so everything comes Pronto.
Okay.
Um,
Pinto Pronto.
Yeah. And the noodle brand was called Gourmet Noodles. And what I did was I realized that all noodle packets are yellow. Have you realized all noodle packets are yellow?
Yeah.
So I was like, no, fuck that, that's stupid. How do you tell the difference between the yellow packet from Maggie's and my yellow packet? It's not going to work. So I color coded my packets according to flavor. So I had a red one for beef, I had an orange yellow one for chicken, I had a blue one for seafood, and I had a green one for vegetable. And I differentiated myself on the shelf. I had a color coded pack set, and then everyone else was yellow. And we did this for a while, and we sold pretty well.
Who's we?
Like I was part of the trucking company, so there was myself, a business partner, and 2 business partners who were involved.
Okay.
And we were doing all right with it. But then the currency crashed. We were buying and importing at 7 rand to the dollar, and then it went to 11 because I think Becky got fired or some shit like that. I can't remember exactly what happened, but the economy collapsed in terms of the exchange rate. And then it was too expensive to import it, and we had to eventually kill that business. Subsequently, that one business partner from the trucking business like stole 1 million rand from us, and we had to close the business down.
I really want to get into that and sort of the choice.
I've been screwed many times. This is not going to be the first business that you're going to hear I got screwed out of it.
Okay.
I'll keep it very short, right? So we had a very cash flush business because we bought and sold. We bought in Joburg and transported around the country, mostly in the Northern Cape, and sold to other companies on a margin. It was a good cash flow business, and we made like a decent amount every month. But what we were trying to do is build a customer base. Because once you have a customer base, we can introduce any kind of product we want, right? So we could sell whatever things we want. I had met my very good friend now, one of my best friends, Alex Michaelides, who is in this business. He's a commodities supplier. He does biscuits and he also does noodles and oils and stuff like that. And he's helped me with lots of opportunities in other businesses just because of those networks, right? In all these years, all the people that I've learned from and have worked with in all kinds of different industries have propelled me into the direction I'm at now because of that broad open mindset that I had. But in that trucking business, what I was starting to do is like I didn't need to do much work. I worked 2 days a week. I just went to the suppliers, placed the orders, paid the bills, and then the guys went with the trucks and delivered for the rest of the time. So 3 days a week I'm chilling, right? Now I've just gotten deep into graphic design because I've done my own packaging. I'm doing my own like content. Then like social media wasn't the thing, and there was no Instagram and nothing like that. So everything was print, right? So I learned a lot about printing and colors and design, and I actually am a pretty decent designer now, and my PowerPoints will blow your mind because of how good I learned the skills then. So while I was there, I was like, all right, I wanted to get into digital. I wanted to learn more about digital stuff. So I started to play with software. I had taken some money and gone on a big Euro trip with my mates from the Netherlands. We went to like 11 countries in 10 days. We went ham, right? And when I went to Berlin, I saw the Lego store in Berlin, and that thing blew my mind because it was the first time I had seen augmented reality. This was in 2010 maybe. Lego store, yeah. So the Lego store was crazy, and this thing actually blew my mind because you went in, you took a box off the Lego, off the shelf, and you went into in front of a camera on a screen, and you could see what that thing was in 3D. So you knew what you were about to build and to scale, and you could see little characters running around it, and you knew exactly what you were going to have. And then I realized, just chilling there for a little bit, every kid who walked in walked out with something. Every single parent paid for something. Lego eventually, like later I read the case study, Lego had like tripled their sale because of AR. Because now you were able to visualize what you were selling. And at the time it inspired me to the nth degree. I came back to Joburg and I was like, cool, I'm going to build AR. And I started building AR stuff for agencies way ahead of the curve. Like way ahead of the curve. You know why? Because the iPhone had just launched. And it wasn't even the first iPhone. We only got the iPhone 4.
When was that? Like
2011.
Oh.
Yeah. 2011, 2012, right? Because it was iPhone 3G, iPhone 3GS, iPhone 4. The iPhone 4 was the first product that actually came out. So the smartphone hadn't even really hit South Africa, but Europe and the US were on fire with this stuff. And I went to agencies selling idea of doing AR. They were blown away by what it could do, but like the costs and the stupid people that ran there didn't give us enough opportunity to actually sell, right? So it was a very hard run business. Not very many sales that actually had happened. At the same time, the trucking business had fell because my partner had screwed us out of the money, and it subsequently did a bad, shady deal behind our backs and lost everything.
Okay.
So I had to sell the trucks, had to sell everything, had to sell my house in Pretoria as well because I was in too much debt at the time. We were growing, right? But we were compounding, everything went back in to expand. I had a big 8-ton truck that cost like 900,000 rand. I had a 4-ton truck, I had a bucky. I was like 2 million rand in HP, right? I mean, obviously I didn't owe 2 million rand, I owed less, but 2 million rand worth of assets at the time. And I had to sell everything. I sold everything and I lost money and I started from nothing again. I sold my GTI, I sold fucking everything and I had to start from scratch.
Did you go back home?
Yeah, I went back home. I moved back home with my mom twice in my life.
Hectic, and you're only 32.
Yeah.
Wait, actually, not to digress. Like, I don't think the idea of going back home after failure is something that comes natural to people, and I don't think it's because you fear failure. I
It's
think
your
it's the
parents.
perception of the people that you grew up around that makes you feel as if.
Yeah, but you see, don't give a fuck. Like, do you care if your friends think of you as a clown? No. What you care about is what your parents think, because then you're new landlords, right? So when you go back home, your parents look at you as a failure, and that's the thing that you can't shake. You see your friends once a week, you know, when you go out for drinks, and you can shake that failure. But every morning when you wake up and your mom looks at you like,
I can't imagine
How did you shake that?
she didn't, and I didn't care. My mom grew up an entrepreneur, right? She grew up with my
So
father's
she
entrepreneur.
understood.
She understood, and she was grateful that I was back home because she thought she could help me. You know, now you don't have to pay for rent. Now you got food, you got everything. So you need to be able to go back home, right? And you need your parents to be able to support you, or you're never going to thrive because you are going to fail. And let me tell you something: like when you don't make a stable income every month, every bit of support that you get is grateful. But your parents look at you as a burden. And that's the problem. If your parents look at you as a burden, you can never go home. You can never take the risk to fail.
I can imagine if you were living with your partner and then.
It's a different story as well. Like your partner may believe in you. Your partner may see everything and they may understand what you're doing because they're, of your same age group. Your parents, if your parents had jobs and then you say you want to be an entrepreneur, they don't know, they don't understand. They have no frame of reference. If your partner sees how hard you work and supports you constantly, then you're in a different space. Then you are still getting the type of support you need to thrive. You must have the ability to fail. Do you know why Silicon Valley exists? Because people started businesses in their parents' garages and they were allowed to fail. And nobody looked at them badly because they didn't come right. They gave them opportunity the next time and the next time and the next time. It is that culture of support that we don't get here. And it's also because we have so many people who live below the poverty line. So you want to try something, you want to take a risk. Are you fucking mad, bro? Are you mad? Why you want to risk? We're hardly surviving now and you want to risk it all. Are you mad? But when you come from a stable home, and you maybe have a little bit of wealth or whatever and you're not struggling, your mindset is not prioritized there. Your mindset is trying to succeed.
So do you think there's a difference between a survivalist entrepreneur and an entrepreneur that does it as for the sake because you enjoy hustling?
Yes, there is a difference, 100%. Like a survivalist hustler, they have different motivation, right? Because their motivation is to survive, is to live and to
Gotta eat tomorrow.
Yeah. Now this problem is also a challenge because they don't have any support. Hustlers who aren't in that mentality, like the guys who are hawkers on the sides of the street and people who are out there trying to sell brooms and stuff to people house to house, those guys live hand to mouth, right? They don't have a support structure. They're hustlers and they can't do anything else because this is what they want to do, but they don't have a support structure to have savings and to try and grow and to establish, and they don't have a support structure to teach them about business and accounting and finance. They just know how to make profit on a sale, right? Then the other entrepreneurs, the ones that are out there that are trying to grow businesses, they're trying to employ people, they're trying to expand, they're trying to leave a legacy. They have a different unit of measure for success, right? They can look at their bottom line, they can look at balance sheet, they can look at their asset risk, they can look at whatever they want to look at. But they are pursuing something else besides every day. Reid Hoffman, who was the founder of LinkedIn and was one of the PayPal mafia, he drives a piece of shit Acura, but he's a billionaire. He drives a terrible car because his unit of measure for success is not the car he drives, but the businesses that he's involved in and the lives that he's changing and the things that he's growing. That's what's important to him, not the cars and stuff. So when you think about the two types of entrepreneurs, the hustler and the hustler going hand to mouth, his motivation is to survive. The other person's motivation is very different. It can be lots of different things, right? It can be to land on Mars, to employ 1,000 people, to make something that no one's ever seen before, available on the shelf so that you can do so, to change someone's perception, to fix poverty in a place. Everyone has their own their own motivation, right? When you're in that space. And you are free to have that kind of motivation because you are not held to the fact that I can't sustain myself. You know, the guy who's living hand to mouth, he doesn't live in a mansion. He doesn't have a car. He's probably got like maybe a fridge and something that he can cook with and eat with, and that's all he needs. We don't need to have 1,000 rand steak. You can eat vegetables to survive. You choose to do so. And for some people, their priorities of what they choose is motivated by other things, right? So entrepreneurship is vast and wide, and the kinds of people who want to succeed and grow and have their own objectives are very different from everyone else.
Okay, cool. So you go back to your mom's house. So
Yeah.
was the first time after university?
No, I was like 20, 25, 26. Like I told you, I had made a lot of money. It was in that time. We had R1 million in cash, guys. In cash.
Hectic.
We didn't owe any suppliers anything. We had R1 million in cash. You know how hard you gotta work to get there. You gotta fucking work hard. My house was paid for. My car was paid for. But I had debts now because I have all these assets and I have to sustain myself. So I had to sell everything off and cover the shortfalls, and then take what money I had left and try to do something with it. And just try and get myself back off, get myself on my feet again.
Okay. So now what happened when
So-
you're at home?
So I couldn't stay at home because I always have to be outside. Like I have to be away from my mom to actually know that I'm in a mental state. Even when I go upstairs to downstairs in my house, right? Like I pack a bag, like I pack my briefcase and I leave the office upstairs or my bedroom, whatever, and I come down to this one. The mentality is like, now I'm in work mode. Now I'm in a workplace, in a workspace. So I got to a co-working space in Maboneng. It was like the first
So you
co-working
moved
space.
back to Gauteng?
Yeah. So no, I was in Pretoria. I sold my house in Pretoria and moved in with my mom, and she had moved to Boxburg.
Oh, sorry. In my head, she was still
In Woodbank. No, she'd sold her business. She kind of like semi-retired, and she went to Benoni. And I was like, cool, I'll come with you, because I'm screwed. So, can I come? And she was like, yeah, of course you can come. Fantastic. So the first co-working space that existed in Joburg was in Maboneng. It was called Open, and this is 2012, I think. So I had obviously been tinkering with computers and stuff for many years, but I never thought of becoming an engineer or software guy. I'd now learned a lot of design work because of doing the design stuff. So I kind of moved in this co-working space, not knowing what the fuck I was going to do, but I used my skills as an extrovert and a hustler to meet people and hear what they were doing.
Sure.
And then, eventually I met some people that we worked together and like, hey, let's work on a project. I'll do the design, you can do the code, and we can make a website for somebody, let's make some cash. Sweet. And I started doing that. I just kept building and building. I took my company from me to 2 to 4 to 8. And then I brought in some other partners who went from 8 to like 52 in a year. Yeah, it was, we thumped, bro. But fuck those guys, because they're a bunch of racist assholes. What we had done is we had 2 businesses that amalgamated into like one kind of holding business. We had the software company that was about 11 people. And I was like the head of the company because it was my company. Like I had taken the business and said, cool, you guys can come in, we'll expand and we'll whatever. But I founded this business.
Yeah.
And I had the ethics and the culture exactly the way that I wanted it to do. I was earning 7,000 rand a month. And other people around me were earning like 50, 60, 70, 80. I was like, yo, I have a vision. I want this business to grow. I only need 7,000 a month to fucking survive. Let's make this happen. And I got lean, and it was to my own detriment because at the end of the day they stole it from me, which we'll get to it now. But what we did was we had 2 parts of business. One part of business was a software training company, so we were training interns for corporations. So when you're just out of school, what do they ask for? They ask for experience. Do you have any experience? No, obviously I'm not. I've come out of school. Okay, go get some experience and then come back. Where the do I get experience, man?
Yeah.
So what we did is we made this program where we paid interns to come in. They had like these little mini projects that they got to work on, and the bank Barclays at the time was funding it. So every quarter there'd be like a challenge. Okay, cool. What's the challenge? Make something that teaches kids about finance. Cool. So everyone would go and make something, and along the way they built a portfolio of evidence, and they built like a knowledge of what they did. And we ran workshops with them. We taught them about stuff. We built a space where we wanted these kids to get the experience. And then our placement rate was heavy, dude. Like 80 or 90% of the kids who came in every quarter got placed. Not even just at the bank, but other places. Because now they have experience, they're software developers, there's a high demand space, but they have a portfolio of evidence in a letter. I wasn't involved in that business, and those guys did what they wanted with the money. And that really pissed me off, right? Because what they were spending the money on was themselves. They had stupidly high salaries. They went and bought exercise bikes. Like six fucking spinning bikes. Let me ask you, yeah? You've got a room full of like 30 kids. Most of them are black. All of them are black kids, right? Now, how do you think they got there? How do you think they got to the space? They walked, bro. They took like 6 taxis. One guy was living in Soshanguve and going to CBD in Joburg every day. Now,
That's literally the opposite side of life.
That's like another side of the world.
Exactly. It took him 2 hours every day to get to work, right? Now, why the fuck does he need a bicycle? Do you think that he needs to exercise more? No, he's exercising just enough. You don't need to fucking buy bicycles, right? I remember the one day I was so angry, I threatened to punch someone in the face. 500 Rand was missing from the petty cash box. So the guy, I'm not going to name any names, right? But the guy who's running this thing decided, no, the whole week, no one's getting bread.
Yo.
To replace this 500 Rand that's missing. I'm like, you fucking piece of shit. Like, these kids are earning nothing. They're earning like a couple thousand rand a month. They're spending all of their money on transport. They're traveling fucking from all over the place just for this opportunity. And the one thing that they can rely on every day is that they're going to get lunch. Like, these kids have now spent all of their money and their parents' money, whatever, to get their qualification. And you're telling me that you're going to spend the money on bicycles and then you're going to take away the food stipend for a week because of something stupid. Like, you probably fucking stole the 500 Rand. Why the hell do you need to make other people punish them for this? And it started to bake in my head that like these selfish assholes were racist. Like, you don't make these decisions unless you have no understanding of where these people come from. Like, I've grown up with people from all walks of life, right? And my diversity, if you look at my WhatsApp profile picture, you'll see I'm the furthest thing from a racist out there. Because if you start to look at how people live, you build true empathy. And you cannot be racist. You can't. If you open your heart and your mind and you learn how other people live and their cultures and their upbringings and the way they do things and the struggles that they go through in their lives, you can't be a racist. You can't. You are fundamentally an evil person if you are. So now, when I'm sitting and I'm trying to tell these guys, like, listen, you fucking morons, like, why are you burning the money like this? The bikes cost 10 grand each. You spent 60 grand on bikes. You could have spent 60 grand on feeding these kids. You could have given them a better stipend for their travel. You could have spent 60 grand on some fucking bunk beds so they didn't have to travel as much to get to this place. Invest in a shower, because when you've traveled for 2 hours in a day, you don't smell like a freshly cut daisy. You smell like shit. That's what it is. We're all humans. But they live in their ivory towers and they believe that, no, we're doing great things and we're helping. Fuck you, man. What you're doing is you're feeding yourself and no one else. And it got to a point where we were fighting aggressively in every board meeting, because I'm like, why the fuck are you doing this? Like, why are you doing this? There's no need for you to do this. And instead they themselves are looking at, okay, this guy is against us because we have a mandate, we want to enrich ourselves. But I'm like, I don't want to enrich myself. I'm earning 7,000 rand a month. Obviously I don't want to fucking make profits. I want those kids to get jobs. I want those people to improve. Every person that's in my organization, even to this day, they must be better tomorrow than they were yesterday because they worked here, because they got opportunities to be better than who they were. Some people in my organization right now have tripled their salaries in 3 years because they were given an opportunity. I don't give you a job, I give you an opportunity. I give you the tools, I give you everything around you that you need to succeed.
Yeah.
And I'm just helping you get there, and that way your byproduct is my success as well. But if I'm trying to oppress you, I'm not going to get anything out of you. And that's what blew my mind, is that like these people are fucking terrible. Like, they're terrible to do this. And I got so disheartened and my body was like in so much pain and agony, and I was like, and I hated my life getting up every day to look at these fucking cunts in their face and now I have to take instructions from them. I had taken my business, I had owned 100%, and now 30% of something I hated. So I quit, I resigned, and I was like, guys, I'm leaving, I'm sorry, I'm done, take my salary, give it to somebody else, I don't care, I'm out of here. And I said, I'm going to Cape Town. I'm going to go to Cape Town, I'm going to fresh start. These dickheads waited, so we had a year end, and we had a good time, everyone's having a good time, they immediately cut me like aside. You're not allowed to come to see these other kids, you're not allowed to talk to these other kids, you're not involved with them, fuck them, this is our business now, fuck you. But it's supposed to be, no, it's not. They restructured everything, changed the offering. I could say nothing. I'm outvoted every day. Eventually, I was like, all right, I'm leaving. I left with 3 months worth of cash in the account and projects and clients and everything that they'd be fine with. Within 2 months, they had emptied out everything in the accounts. And now they had sent me messages saying, you're a 30% shareholder, you have to put in 30% of the money to recapitalize the business. And I refused. I was like, fuck you. You're the person who's run it into the ground. Clearly, you've run it into the ground. I left you with 3 months of money. How can you be done in 2 months? What's going on? It was their plan. Their plan was to bleed the business dry and then recapitalize it with their own money that they had gotten from the Barclays deal. And then eventually I can't do it. So in our shareholders agreement, it's like if you can't match the collateral, your shares are reappropriated to someone else.
Jeez.
So they ran the business to the ground and they were like, cool, you have to re-put in money to keep the bills going. I'm like, I'm not doing that. I don't work there. I'm not a director. I left you with plenty of money. Why are you driving the business to the ground? Doesn't matter. I'm a 30% shareholder. I'm a minority. I don't get any say. School fees. within 3 months, dude, they had like pretty much taken my whole business from me. I never got a single cent out of anything. I didn't even get paid a proper salary because I chose to rather build a business and leave a legacy. And instead, I had gotten the business with people who were selfish and who wanted just to eat for themselves.
Does the business still exist?
I don't know. Fuck them. I don't care. I moved on in life.
I suppose one of the lessons would be choose better partners or wiser people.
100%. You know what the thing is, right? And I realized at that moment that every business and every opportunity that you take in life needs to have a vision. You have to clearly articulate what you're trying to achieve and what you're trying to do. If you don't do that right, you failed. You failed dismally. You failed. So I realized that while I was going to be the founder of the next entities and so on going forward, you know, I had to set the vision of what I wanted, right, from the get-go. And everyone who was around me had to subscribe to the same thing. We have to sign a shareholders agreement. There's no bullshit conversation. We do this in pen and paper and ink. We do this right. We say what we're trying to do. We tell people the same story. We don't change our story. We keep our vision straight and forward and what we want to do. And that's the legacy that I've done ever since then. I learned that what I instead was is that I was trusting people that did not share the same vision or values that I did. They were just greedy people, and I do not subscribe to that. Like, look, you guys are in my studio for free. I'm not a greedy person. Greed doesn't help anyone with anything. It's not going to propel anything going forward. You need to be open. You need to share. You need to collaborate. You need to share ideas, information, knowledge. You don't do that, you're not helping anyone with anything. You're just a selfish asshole. So, you know, when I kind of got away from that, I went to Cape Town, and I was like, cool. That's when we met. When we met Andre and Fred, and you know what I wanted to do is I wanted to do something completely different. I wanted to be the furthest away from tech because I had felt like I was poisoned from it. I needed a fresh start. I knew that I was still going to be building tech and I was still going to be doing AR stuff and I was still going to evolve, but I wanted to do something for me and I wanted to do something different. I remember when I traveled to New York like a year or two before then, and I got so inspired by this like culture of food and pizza and life, and I was like, cool. Found the spot in Long Street. I actually came to UCT to give a talk, and I found the spot, and I had taken the lease, and I had gone. I didn't even have enough money to do so. I just hustled and hustled and hustled until we made it work. And the pizza shop was great, dude. I mean, we had such a good time there. It was worth everything. I felt. You were supposed to put it on silent. I had felt like my life was rejuvenated, man. I felt like I was alive again. You know.
Passion, life.
I mean, I moved into a commune. Right? You know, with people. Like,
Was it with Varsity students?
Students.
So how old were you at this time? You're 27, 26?
27, 28. Yeah, 27.
Chilling with 19-year-olds.
Yeah. Yeah, and you know what? I learned so much about life because my mind was open. I learned a lot about geology, right? Because Andre would talk to me and teach me about it.
Absolutely.
I learned so much about Cape Town and the people that were there. I learned so much about the scene and how it was different from Joburg and why I eventually don't like Cape Town anymore, you know. But, you know, I learned so much because I had a broad open mind and because I had reset everything. I just like dropped the anger and the anxiety and the frustration that I had, and I dropped all the, you know, everything else, and I just started fresh, brand new. I started, you know, with nothing. Like I basically lived in a room in a terrible house, and my passion, my vision was just to get out of that.
I definitely couldn't tell. Knowing what I know now, like you were still full of life, or at least that's what appeared.
You could see.
Yeah, like.
But it's because I reset. because I just dropped off everything that made me feel upset, and I moved into a whole new environment, and I just basically blank slated my life. And I still had the same energy. I was still the same person, but everything that was causing me to not reach my full potential of myself was gone.
All that anger.
Okay, so I'm not really familiar with Long Street, right? But based on what I've heard, the strip to rent out there is probably quite expensive because of the traffic that moves into there. So, and you, like, based on like the research I did, so you took a New York concept, pizza and everything, and you wanted to recreate it in a place that probably would allow that.
Yeah, a tourist environment, lots of foot traffic. Yeah.
How do you go about that? Like an actual, like, what happens? Like,
So
mentality
I took the shop, right, and I saw it, and it was the only space that was available on Long Street in the section where there was high traffic. So I was like, okay, well, this is the constraint that I have. I have to design around this constraint.
Wait, please give us the name for the people that are.
Oh, it was called Slice.
Slice pizza.
Slice Pizza. So it was a small shop, tiny shop, and that's what I wanted. I didn't want something big. I didn't want a lot of tables. I only had 2 tables. 2 tables and 8 chairs. That's all I had. The tables actually folded down so that you could clean the floors easily, and they folded back up. And we had, like, I had taken the opportunity to say, okay, cool. I've designed things before. I was a contractor with my old man. I know how to use my hands.
You did all the tables yourself. Eh?
I did the whole fucking shop almost myself. The only thing I didn't do was tile it because I'm a terrible tiler. But I built the cabinets. I did most of the electrics. I solved some of the plumbing. I painted the shop. The menu, I did it, all of it. I did everything. I took it as a passion project. I was like, cool, I'm going to make my own thing in my own vision. With all the skills and the tools that I know, and all the opportunities that I've been given in my life to experience, I'm going to impart them on the store. So that store was me.
Have water.
No, that was
I think that was
before.
slightly. No, was it not after?
No, it has to be. It has to be.
The water crisis happened after.
Yeah, it
Slice.
was afterwards.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So yeah, man, I hustled. I found an oven for like 10 grand when they cost like 100 new. I went and I pinched and borrowed everything. I used my own hands to build things. My counter cost me like 2,000 rand to build because it was just materials. There was no labor. I think I spent like 60 grand on that shop, all in for everything, the equipment, the fridges, everything. And the actual budget should have been closer to like 200. So, I literally poured everything into that place. Like everything that I had, I poured into it. And when it opened, I didn't even care if it made any profits, to be honest with you. It was a labor of love. And it was something that made me feel alive again. Because now I didn't feel like I was nobody and that I was being orchestrated and manipulated by people that I hated. I was my own man. I had done something myself, and I had felt immensely proud from that moment. And we did good. And, there were some days that were terrible, and there were some days that were good. And, I didn't even look at the margins or the profit at the end of it as the measure of success. I looked at the experiences that I gained.
Would you suggest a restaurant?
No.
Well, before we get into that, do you then think that for you the greatest measure of success is being able to bring or birth your ideas into reality?
Yes, and to hold yourself accountable to them, because anyone can make up an idea. I get like 3 ideas when I take a shit every morning. Like, it doesn't mean that it's worth anything.
Must be a long as shit.
No, it's like 6 minutes, dog. I'm good. I'm good. But what I'm saying is, even when you're just walking around, even when you just get inspired by ideas. But the true experience is being able to say, dude, that idea is dumb. That idea is not good. Like, think about the new method. Like, when we talk about engineering and first principles, you are deducing whether an idea is going to work or not. And that's what I learned the hard way through experience. I loved imparting everything on that store and making it my own. And then, it rejuvenated me back into technology, because I was like, I'm good at tech. And just because these previous people have really ruined my life in a way, I'm not going to let that define myself. So, I then went back into tech, and I started building AR experiences again, and I started looking at more opportunities in the tech space. And while I was, doing the pizzas, and, dude, we worked until 4 a.m. every night, 4 nights a week. So, I did double shifts where I would go to work at 9, open, and go home at 4 in the morning. And I would work all the way through. And I would do that a few days of the week, and the other time, when it was quiet, because it's Monday and Tuesday, no one's buying pizzas on Mondays and Tuesdays, I would go back into tech. And I still worked 7 days a week. I worked 7 days a week on 2 different things. It was tech and it was pizza. And I learned and I learned and I tried and I failed and I kept going and I kept going and I worked like a dog. My girlfriend was in Joburg, so I was just hyperly focused on what I was doing and I didn't care about anything else. And it rejuvenated me to take bigger swings in life. When I was kind of about a year into the pizza shop, I was like, cool, I'm going back to Joburg because I'm ready now to smash. I gave the restaurant to Andre and to Nino. I was like, cool, it's yours, take it. You guys can do whatever you want with it. I've got what I wanted out of it, right? I got what I needed.
Is it still around?
No.
Yeah.
No, it closed down.
School fees?
School fees. So at the time I had met, I met this fellow, I'm not going to name names, but I met this guy and he asked me if I'd be keen to get in on a co-working space.
Wait, before you start that, actually, because I want to ask something.
Oh.
For someone who's thinking of opening up a restaurant,
Oh.
biggest technical lessons from opening and closing a restaurant?
Okay, you need to be able to structure a few things, or you'll always fail, like regardless. One thing is you have to keep the quality of your product to the highest standard you possibly can all the time. When you lose a customer because of a bad experience, it'll take you 10 times the effort to win them back. Right? You always have to have a good quality standard. McDonald's, a Big Mac is a Big Mac is a Big Mac is a Big Mac, right? It's the fundamental principle that when you go to McDonald's, you're going to get a Big Mac and it's going to taste the same all the time. Your quality has to be there. You have to make sure that you have whatever mechanisms that are there, whether it's your manager, whether it's images, whether it's technology, whatever. Your quality has to always be there. The second thing that you have to note is that your costs are not going to go anywhere, but your sales are fully in your control, right? There is so many people selling food and there's so many options, and if you go on Uber Eats, you'll just get drowned by all the things that's there. Sales are in your control. You need to market your business. You have to constantly be doing it all the time. You have to be making sure that you don't have to worry about the product, but worry more about the customer and getting the customer through the door or through the app, whatever. So you must know that just because you make good food doesn't mean that anyone's going to give a shit. You have to tell them that they should care. So you have to push hard all the time to keep making sure that people are always thinking about your food, your food, your food, your food, your food. And the third thing that you always have to be conscious of is that the restaurant is a very dynamic place. People lose jobs as waiters and get them like tissue paper, man. Like, you need to be able to change all of your staff and still keep everything moving the same way. So you have to look at mechanisms and processes and structures that make sure that your staff are not the most important thing in your business. You can interchange them because it's a hard business. It's long hours, it's difficult work, it's working for customers that treat you like assholes. It's people who think that they're always right when they're not always right. And your staff are going to get over it, man. Your staff are going to hate life and they're going to be miserable. You got to make sure that you can either change them if they leave, or that you can do whatever mechanisms you can to make them as happy as possible. But you can't rely on your staff. You have to rely on your product and how you deliver that product to the customer and the customer's perception of your product. Everything else needs to be interchangeable.
Okay, thank you, sir. And
Cool.
then now you...
Co-working. Oh yeah, so a guy approached me to get into co-working space. I was like, I knew what a co-working space was because I had started in Open, and that's where I kind of got the business off the ground for the software business that eventually came out. I knew what the space needs to look like, what it needed to function like, how it would work well and how it would fail and so on. And I had a lot of experience in it. So I was like, cool, let's do it.
Is WeWork paying school fees at this point in time in America?
WeWork is a whole different podcast, bro.
No, I'm saying at the time that you guys are trying to do this, is WeWork something that
WeWork was
really
thriving.
exists?
So
Okay.
our whole business model was like, we gotta do it before they get you.
Okay, okay, sharp. Okay,
Yeah.
continue.
So we had this big space in Greenside we had the option on, and signed the lease and we got into it. I put in some money and I put in a lot of time and effort to set the place up, do the Wi-Fi and all that kind of jazz.
Sure.
Build some of the tech that needed for the space, and along the way, this kind of person that I had built a game with, eventually we owned the business together.
Which game? The Budfight?
Budfight, yeah. He introduced me to VR. He had told me like, hey man, you got this mate in China. I was doing consulting work and helping this guy in China sell games locally in SA. So I was getting like a little bit of
PS
income.
games.
No, like mobile games.
Okay.
Yeah. So he was like, "You got this mate in China. He's coming over for a couple of weeks. Tell him to bring us a Vive." And I'm like, "The fuck is a Vive?" "No, dude. Like, check this video." And he showed it to me. He was like, "Okay, all right, cool. Freddie, please bring me a Vive."
What is a Vive?
It's a VR headset. It was one of the first that came out. The Oculus was the one that like everyone knows because of the Kickstarter, but the Vive was the second one. And you couldn't really get the Oculus in the country, but you could make a plan to get the Vive.
It's actually quite expensive.
It still is, but when you put it on, it doesn't matter how much it costs.
The experience is just
It's
better.
just next
It's
level.
mind-blowing.
Yeah. Have you guys tried?
No.
Well, I've tried.
You've tried. What did you think?
Well, knowing what I know now, but like the price, I don't know if as an everyday consumer I would,
How much is it?
You can buy a VR headset now for $300.
It's well, when, for instance, like I think I looked at Takealot for the Oculus. The one was like for 15K. The other was like for.
That's
19K.
government. That's government fucking us. It's the import duties and the VAT
Sure.
that adds 40% on the price. It's $300 for an Oculus Quest 2. $300 if you don't pay the duties and the VAT. It's like 5,000 rand. But as soon as you put the duties, the VAT, the shipping, the customs charges, and all the other crap that comes on top of it, your cost is nowhere less than 12.
Sure.
So you got to expect that the guy has to make some margin out of this.
Sure. So when I tried out the game, it almost kind of like reminded me of what was that game? The console Wii.
Wii U.
Yeah.
Wii.
Nintendo.
Yeah.
Nintendo.
Is it still around?
No,
Nah.
the Switch is the new product. Yeah.
Sure. So it kind of like reminded me of that. As a gaming device, cool. I'll play it with my kids and well, if I had kids and family and stuff.
Are you
Are
trying to
you
tell me
trying
something?
to- Are you sure you don't have kids?
So-
you don't seem
So I'll definitely do it, right? But I genuinely don't know if I'm willing to pay that amount of cash just for the VR headset.
Yeah, so the thing is, the VR headset is a tool, right? But let me put it in perspective for you. A PlayStation 5 costs $499, right? But you still have to buy a TV and a couch, right? So what are you in? You're in $1,000 max, like minimum. You're $1,000 in. A VR headset costs $299, and you don't need a couch because you're standing, and you don't need a TV because it's on your face. So it changes your whole perception about what entertainment looks like, right? And I don't sell VR for entertainment. I sell VR for training, because if you need to practice how to work on an oil refinery in the middle of the ocean, do I have to send you there, or can I put you in VR and you can practice, right? If I need to teach you how to perform a piece of surgery, should I give you a live person that you could kill, or should I do it in a simulation?
Yeah, can you augment it in a way?
Yes, so that's what I do with New Realities, that we focus on enterprise work, right? How do we bring value to the enterprise? Because there are certain things you just can't recreate any other way, right? Like I can't train someone to fix an engine without an engine in front of them. But I could put a headset on them and they could practice it until they're dead. They can do it until they're finished. Like there's no end to it. And the cost to do so is 10x better than what was done before. So VR is a medium, right? And it's a medium which you can play games on, and you can learn stuff with, and you can connect with people, and so is your laptop, right? You can spend $2,000 on your laptop, and it can do exactly the same thing as your VR headset does, right?
Sure.
Where VR is right now is only 5 or 6 years old in its reality, like as a commercial product. And it still has a long way to go for it to be something that is ubiquitous, for everyone to have in their homes. When that'll happen, it's hard to say, right? There's lots of things that factor, but VR will just be another type of thing that you're going to have in your life. It's not going to be something that is going to replace everything.
Sure.
It's just going to be something that's so much better to do in VR than it is to do it on a PlayStation. It's going to be so much better to do it in VR than with pen and paper in a classroom, right? It's going to be so much better to do it in VR than being on site and potentially hurting somebody. There's lots of opportunities in VR because it's a medium. You mustn't think of it only in certain aspects.
Yeah. So sure, I thought of it in sort of like entertainment because that's the way in which I guess interacted with it prior.
Yeah.
Now my question is, when it comes to training, right? Do you think people react to the situation or circumstance differently when they're under simulation versus reality?
Yes, they do. The studies have shown it.
Where they know that like this is only like training.
No. In actually invertedly. So We call this presence. The term is presence. Presence is when your brain is tricked to believe that you are where you are, right? So you have basically like 100% presence right now because we can all see each other, we're in the room.
Sure.
I put a headset on your face and I trick your eyes and your ears. I have like 60% presence on occupants. And the deeper I make the simulation and the more feedback I bring in with haptics and interactions that you put down, the more your brain believes that you're there. So there are actually states where your brain is 100% believing that you're where you are when you're not in VR. There's an experience called Richie's Plank experience where you walk up plank in VR, like on the top of the Empire State Building. We put down a wooden plank on the floor and we make people walk on it and they freak out. They know they're not on top of the Empire State Building. They know that they're not going to fall down to the ground, but they still freak out like they're going to fall when they're not going to.
Yeah.
That is the true level of like the immersion that you can create, right? So VR is immensely powerful because while you know that it's fake, your brain doesn't think that, right?
Your reactions and all of that will...
Is exactly as it is in reality.
Yeah.
So VR is immensely powerful, and because of that, you can do anything with it, right? So you can train, you can learn, you can play games, you can talk to people. I have meetings in VR with people all over the world sometimes, you know, and we can see each other, we can wave hands, we can shake hands, we can show documents. It's presence, right? Presence is what we're trying to ultimately create with all these experiences.
And margins?
How do you mean margins?
Are you guys making...
Yeah, we're doing all right.
Sure.
I mean, we're not a billion-dollar company. No one is in VR.
Humble
brag.
We're doing alright. We're doing alright. We jumped the gun a bit. Because we went straight to the company basically.
Oh, we were talking about, yeah, so that's what the New Reality started. It started in that co-working space about 4 years ago, just over 4 years ago.
So his other company, which is currently in existing, is New Reality.
Yes. So New Reality started 4 years ago in that co-working space. I was involved in the co-working space and New Reality at the same time. We literally started New Reality and everything you see around you from a laptop and a Vive. That's it. So we hustled every day, like showing people, doing demos, convincing them what they could do when they embrace VR.
What about Boot Fighter?
Boot Fighter came out because you build all of VR experiences in game engines. So I built a reputation about building games. Even though the games were for corporates, I was now able to build games.
Training games.
Yeah, so now I'm just building an entertaining game. It's the same stack, there's the same people involved, you know what I mean? Same sort of workflow. And yeah, that's pretty much how...
Any barriers?
What do you mean?
To entry?
Plenty.
What are the barriers?
People.
Specifically.
As in like ticks?
Perception of the market, the viability, the number of headsets that are available, the use cases, the success that's been there. It's an infant market. It's not fully established yet. It is growing dramatically every year, but it's not established. So the barriers are knowledge and experience. There's not a lot of people who know what VR is or how to build for it because there's obviously their own rules and processes to make the games and experiences. It's about product market fit, knowing a product and a market that you're servicing and a customer you're going to take it to. Then it's also the barrier of the cost to actually get in, right? Because $300 is still money, right? And you want to buy 100 of them, that's $30,000.
That's quite a lot.
So it all starts to add up as...
Wait, and how do you charge? Do you charge per headset?
We don't sell the headsets. There's another company that...
No, I mean like a user, like for example.
We charge for a project. So what does your project need to do? And we basically work backwards from saying, well, what's your objective? Our objective is to do X. Okay, cool. I'm going to fix X by saving you Y. And the reason I'm going to save you Y is because you're going to pay me Z. And Z is the fee that I'm going to charge you. We look at it as a project fee. We're pivoting now into a business where we want to build on-demand training in partnerships with some companies. So we want to basically have a VR headset that's at an office and that anyone in the company can go in, put the headset on, and train themselves however they want to train.
Have you seen a boom during COVID times?
Yes, we have, but also it's a false boom because the boom was, yes, digital, everything digital. We need VR, we need cool. But then China's closed, so you can't buy headsets. Shame.
Yeah.
Wait, so your limitation is a result of the borders closing?
Yeah, it's because the market's too infant. So you don't have a strong enough supply chain. You don't have millions of units out there. Like when you want to make an app for a phone, you've got billions of phones to install it in. When you want to make an app for a VR headset, you don't have billions of headsets. You've got a few million of headsets, all segregated across the world. And then when your supply chains are so fragile and your supply chains can't keep up with the demand, you're not really thriving, right? Like I had lots of clients who were like, oh, we want to buy 10 headsets. I was like, oh, great, I can't get you 10. No one can get you 10. That's all sold out, and you're gonna wait at least 2 months for anything to come. There's your barrier.
Okay, so now we're in like 2021, right?
Yeah.
And you have New Reality.
And controlled.
I was about to say, so your other robotics company.
Mm.
So